How's it going, guys? It's Mr. Lone Wolf, and today I'm going to go and do this mission. It's on Albany River called Floating Detectors. It keeps popping up, it keeps offering me to do this mission. I've been kind of eyeballing it a little bit, having a little preliminary sneak around the area and see what's been going on. Yeah, and I just think in the end this is probably the best way to do the mission. So you've got to head over to this waterfall, and there's three lots of like drilling spare parts you've got to pick up, but one's on top of the waterfall, two of them are at the bottom of the waterfall. So I'm going to then double back on myself, go down the hill, and it's the way that I think the game is kind of they intended you to do it, just because, I mean, you could I'm going to go to like the top drilling spare part first on top of the waterfall. In theory, which I've already tried, to be honest. I was going to say I was more than happy to do, but just fling yourself off the waterfall. But obviously, one, that wouldn't happen in real life. Two, there is actually a pretty deep hole there. Yeah, that's what she said. It's enough to like swallow the whole truck as well. Like obviously where the waterfall goes off, it's pretty deep. It then shallows out pretty quickly. Like once you're down there, and like where you'd be collecting the I keep wanting to call them detectors, drilling spare parts, whatever the bloody hell they are. Yeah, like I said, I've been looking around, and there seems to be like, if you drive down this really steep hill that I'm going to go down, and then there appears to be like a bit of a ledge running along the edge of like the lake or whatever it is, river, that you can drive down basically and get the two detector things at the bottom, and then there's like another route that's flattened enough to get out of there really. In theory, well, there's a couple of different ways. I could essentially do this mission in reverse as far as like the way I go down to the bottom of the waterfall and all the rest of it, but I don't know, like the hill I'm going to have to go down in a minute that I'll mention when I'm there, it's a pretty tricky hill to get up. It's a hill I climbed up during the exploration of this map, and yeah, even with a truck on its own it's a little bit iffy, and you're kind of flinging out winches and all the rest of it. I think once I've got cargo and all the rest of it on as well, I don't think it'll be too keen on going up that way, so I kind of did it the way I did, and it's a much easier way kind of out of there after you've grabbed all the drilling spare parts from the bottom of the waterfall. I did actually start tonight's mission as well. I was doing what's it called, Lost Cargo. It's only a mission, it's not a contract. It's on burned forest, but you need to do it. You've got to recover 3 lots of concrete slabs and take them to the quarry, and then once you've done that you unlock one of the contracts that's on like the main list, but it says, you know, this mission's locked until you do Lost Cargo. It also unlocks like a truck repair service and access to location, which I assume is the quarry itself. Yeah, it's kind of a little bit in the middle of nowhere. It's cool that it's going to get a truck repair service thing, so at least you can renew vehicles and that there, but it's a little bit kind of in the middle of nowhere, that quarry, so I've never really had to drive past it until like the last day or so. I've been doing a couple of missions, so I don't know how much use I'll get out of that one. But yeah, I ended up, when I was doing that Lost Cargo mission, I took the Derry 15C out, just kind of, you know, because it is a truck that we've been given for this phase, so I sort of wanted to get some footage of it if I could, and it was just horrifically slow. There's a couple of little odd glitches going on. I was cutting through some like forest bit on here, and I just hit what is like an invisible wall. I don't really know, there wasn't anything I was hitting, all my tyres were touching the ground and all the rest of it. It was just, yeah, like an invisible hitbox was in the way that I couldn't see. That kind of messed with the footage a little bit, and then in the end I don't know, between how slow it was a little bit untidy, just the way, like I said, just catching things and all the rest of it. So in the end I was like, sod it, I'm just going to abort the mission. I don't know if I'll use that footage in the end. I've nearly got to the end of it really. I've picked the slabs up and that, but I don't know, I might end up just restarting that mission and doing it with a different truck, preferably one that's a little bit quicker, because goddamn that Derry, it's painfully slow in certain sections. And yeah, that's why kind of like, I'd already, like I said, kind of scoped this mission out before, so then tonight, after I'd kind of abandoned the Lost Cargo contract, I just quickly jumped onto this one, and then yeah, gave it a little bit of thought, but I kind of needed to get cracking really with like getting the footage for it and everything, so I just kind of picked this way in the end, which there's a tiny little bit of doubling back on myself. Other than that, it's all like a... In the end, it was a pretty decent mission. Let's say it's one of them. I think it's just because it was at the top of my missions list. Every time I start the game again, it just keeps offering me this as like already activated as a mission to do. So yeah, this is the first drilling spare parts, whatever it is. And as you can see, I mean, yeah, I could just drive off the end of the waterfall. Obviously, if you did, the cargo tip out and all the rest of it, you'd have to be relying on landing like the right way up. And yeah, I mean, it could be fun, don't get me wrong. Again, I had a little look around here the other day, and I was in, I think, yeah, it was one of these Taygas, and I did throw that off the waterfall. To be fair as well, there's quite a lot of rocks lying around here, so you can't, it wasn't as spectacular as you'd think flying off the waterfall. You end up just sort of dribbling off the end really, because you've not really got enough room and space to get like a good little run up. If it was a bit more dramatic, maybe it would have ended up being the way I did this mission. Yeah, faffing around with the cargo. This bloody blue little crane didn't even have enough oomph to it to lift this single cargo. In the end, you just kind of have to jackknife the trailer. I don't really know. I know that's probably not the correct way to explain it, but get the trailer so it's kind of wedged 90 degrees to your truck, and then you can just about reach it. Pretty nice view there. Yeah, so now, like I say, just double back on myself a little bit and go to this road. Which I don't know, it's hard to call it really. Like the route I'm going to go down the hill now seems to be just about the most sensible way the game is kind of intending you to do it, but even then the hill is a little bit on the, you know, bordering on a vertical steep cliff kind of territory, so it's a little bit odd. It's a bit odd as well, obviously you're wanting to go to the bottom of the waterfall, and the first thing you do is start climbing up this hill, gaining elevation, which is kind of counterintuitive. You can see there as well, I've got a feeling what they've done on this game, other than like, they keep nerfing the engines a little bit, and they seem to have been doing that phase by phase, but I think somewhere around this phase getting added, they've quote unquote fixed the trailers, which actually has, in the case of this ramped flatbed, it does feel more sensible and it's less ruthless on screwing you over. Some of the other trailers feel a little bit heavier. I reckon they've somehow redone the trailers, and I don't know, maybe it's like the extra weight and drag from the trailers is now finally having like a more noticeable effect on some of the vehicles, because this thing couldn't even maintain high gear going up that hill, which in its defence, it is quite a rocky hill, so you are bouncing around, your tyres are like very rarely actually touching the ground to get some decent grip. But yeah, with that Derry as well that I was driving earlier, the 15C, I mean that's supposed to have what is now the new strongest engine in the entire game, and there was quite a few sections I got to where it's like that's it, you just, all the power stops to the wheels and they all lock up. So yeah, you can see from leaving the main road, wiggling around that section's not too bad. Yeah, this hill is a bit of a steep one. It's one of the very, very, very few times I'm actually sticking the handbrake on as I'm flying down here. As tempting as it was to just drop the hammer, stick it in high gear halfway down or something, make it do some like mad Jeff special, I'll probably quite promptly go flying off into that river, which that river is pretty deep as well. And that's what I mean, like this seems to be, that's one way to approach. You see now down here it's all like flat ground where you could drive a truck. Behind me, if I went the other way, is no longer flat ground. That, you know, isn't like a viable option. Obviously to cross this river to my right, is the river's ridiculously deep, so that doesn't seem like a sensible option. And yeah, as I said, like cutting down here, you can actually see there is, you know, a decent truck's width of flat ground to drive along. Although clip my tyre on that rock absolutely deleted me, blew the tyre, completely deleted the fuel tank and the suspension. Which, I mean, see, this is why I don't leave home without him. Get yourself a goddamn horse. Yeah, fix the fuel tank, fix the tyre, and I was just checking quickly, but I've got 250 points left, 240 to fix the suspension, so I've still got 10 points left. So worst case, even if I fully deleted the suspension again, I could just add the last 10 points and at least it'd kind of behave like it's just been fixed again. But yeah, this rock here, you can see now, even driving forward, and this is what I mean with the like lack of power and everything going on these days. Those front tyres aren't even like attempting to climb up that rock at that point. They were just kind of shoving into it, and then that was it. I don't even know if I got any wheel spin action out of the rears. But still, for the most part, it's reasonably level, and yeah, you can get to the bottom of the waterfall here. Like I say, where that tree is, kind of on the left, and yeah, that pool just in front of the waterfall is pretty ridiculously deep. When I jumped this Tayga off there, I landed in there, and yeah, pretty much the whole truck was gone, like, beyond the snorkels or anything. There's no chance of firing up. Obviously, if you've got a goddamn horse with you, and if you take one, I think this one has actually got a autonomous winch on it. You could fling yourself off the waterfall that way, and the loaf will perform his duties. He'll do a rescue. Worked out pretty nice there. Picked up the second cargo, just kind of reversing to make the trailer at a 90-degree angle, and the crane just kind of flicked it onto where I needed it to be. And yeah, like this section I'm driving across now, you can see is like purposely pretty shallow, pretty easy and simple to drive across. And obviously we've got to get down here one way or the other, because they've put the cargo down here in the first place. But there's nowhere really immediately to the left or right of the waterfall that makes sense to climb down here. It's all too... it's just steep and awkward. You'll end up just tipping your truck off there, really. But it's one of them. They also put one cargo at the top, so you have to go that top way as well. Hence why I had to do like a little bit of doubling back on myself just to then cut down that really steep hill. And even now, again, this crane, it's not got enough oomph. I can't even lift the cargo. I was trying to not even fully lift it, just to try and sort of scrape it along to the left a bit more. It ended up tipping over on its side, and that sort of worked out. Click unpack cargo, then pack cargo. That got all three of them done. It's a pretty nice view. That might end up being the thumbnail. And then yeah, if you look like through the trees, there's like another little ledge leading back out from the waterfall, and a little line zigzagging through the trees. And again, I was just panning the camera around to show you, like, either side of the waterfall just really isn't. If anything, you can potentially tiptoe down this side of the waterfall from the top to the bottom, but there's quite a few trees in the way. It's on a bit of an angle, and there still isn't any like obvious way to sort of step down. Whereas here, you can see running along, there's like a sort of smoothed out little rock ledge running all the way along, and then there is actually like a little lane running back out of the trees. So yeah, this is the only different way you could do it, really, is come down this lane and essentially do it the opposite way to what I've done. But as I said, you'd have to then drive with 3 lots of cargo up that really steep hill that I went flying down, kind of dabbing the handbrake on and off. I think now's another good example as well, as when the power runs out. It did hit the saving cogs, and that did have like a frame stutter for a minute, and sometimes that does take a little bit of momentum out of your vehicle. And then yeah, as well there, maybe it jumped up into second. But still, that's happening a hell of a lot more on this phase than I remember on some of the other phases, particularly considering I am using like some of the top end trucks in the game. I mean, that's why I cracked out Tony the Tayga again for this one. As I was flicking through, again, you're fairly limited on what you can use. Well, I could use stuff like the Derry, or but that's going to be slow as hell. So if you roll out all the advanced special gearbox stuff and stick to just the high range stuff, I mean, you've got this. The smaller Tayga can't have a crane on, which you need a crane. And then yeah, there's like the Voron AE, the Dolphin, but the Dolphin can't have a crane, sideboard, and a trailer. And because there's 3 pieces of cargo, I mean, I suppose strictly speaking, I do always like taking a loaf of meat. And to be fair, if I didn't this time, I would have had to restart the mission because I smashed my fuel tank, so that would have easily leaked all my fuel out by now, and it deleted the suspension, which makes your chassis kind of just sit down really low. That would have been scraping on the rocks and all the rest of it. So, but yeah, I could have, if I didn't have a loaf with me, God forbid, loaded 2 cargo into the sideboard and then just worn the other one like a hat, I suppose, and do it that way. But yeah, as there is 3 lots of cargo, kind of, you're not going to get away with a 2-slot trailer unless I kick the loaf out, and that'd be rude. He's been there for just about every single mission I've done on this game. And yeah, as you can see, like leading out then, that path leading out of the forest was like pretty simple, and now I think I'm back on like just the normal roads as I'm flying around the map, really. And yeah, I mean, this mission, yeah, didn't work out too badly in the end. I was just more curious of, like, yeah, kind of working out what the devs, you know, the route they wanted us, they were thinking of taking with it. So, yeah, like I say, hence why I didn't launch myself off the waterfall, but it's got to be something to do with the way I went, because that's the only kind of sensible ways down to the bottom of that waterfall. Didn't quite make the corner on that. There's a little bit of a large turning circle on this Tayga. I think this Tayga's obviously got like a longer chassis than the other one. Hence why, though, it can fit a crane, a sideboard and a trailer, which is pretty handy. And the power's pretty decent on it. Every now and then I think these custom muds are a little bit average, but they yeah, they do sit nice and wide, so save you tipping quite a lot. And then now, just to sort of save me going the long way round, I was kind of using a little bit of a shortcut through this burned forest section of the Albany River map. It's a bit awkward that they called one of the maps burned forest, because you actually need that phrase as a descriptor for certain areas of like this map as well. And I don't really know the correlation between these three locations you've got to drop them off to. They're just kind of, yeah, three different locations, drop one off at each. You don't get to see anything. I mean, what is it? It said drilling spare parts. I don't really know how that'd factor into stopping fires. Especially, it all seems a little bit late to be installing whatever you're installing now after the entire area's burnt to shit. Probably would have been a good idea to get on that before. And these trees. I ended up editing this out just while I was faffing around selecting the winch. Yeah, these trees are ridiculous in the burned forest section. You can see it's fully hooked on my chassis. I'm just trying to brute force my way around it, and then it starts catching on the trailer though, and I have to pretty much yank the whole trailer sideways just for the tree to kind of ping its way off it. It's yeah, they're way over the top. And they actually seem like they go out their way to catch on your chassis. I thought, oh, I might be looping around the edge of that one. Hell no. Smash the fuel tank on it. Again, just kind of a bit of reversing, juggling around. Stuck a winch out and we kind of brute force my way over it. Yeah, this one's a bit awkward. I mean, you can drop these off in any order you want, so this doesn't necessarily have to be the second drop. But it kind of leads you up this little narrow path. Drop that off, and now obviously I've got to reverse this bloody trailer. In the end, the best idea was just to stick a winch from the back of the trailer to the tree that's, well, on the right as we're looking at it now, but technically on the left. Yeah, and just kind of hoover that in as I'm reversing. Because, yeah, this trailer does have a mind of its own. And as you can see there, that actually worked out pretty easy. I even saved the footage there because I kind of figured it'd be more awkward than that. And then, yeah, last one, cut through the trees a little bit again. See, the power just runs out there again. And I know this truck has plenty of power. It's just the game seems to pick and choose when it'll let you have access to all of it. Big tree stump, missed that. I'm going past now. I think that's yeah, logging station. Oh yeah, where you get burned logs. I don't think you can get any other kind of logs from there. See, again, you can hear it with the power. Dies out for some bizarre reason. And funny enough, it was when I was doing the Lost Cargo contract. I was actually cutting through here, going the opposite way though. And it was around where my front bumper is now that I was hitting that invisible wall. But again, I was driving from like the left of the screen, and the front of the derry was just hitting about there, and I don't know what it was. Eventually I drove around it, but I was hitting something solid as if I was hitting a tree, but there was just, yeah, nothing there, like a ghost tree. Yeah, this mission done though. Again, no animation or nothing. It's a bit of a random mission. I actually quite like it though. It was a good excuse to go down and mess around on that waterfall and kind of find the route through there. But yeah, done. 8,100 I think, so not terrible, not amazing. But anyway, yeah, that's about it for today though. I hope you enjoyed, I hope that helps. Thanks for watching, thanks for Patreon members. Get yourself a loaf because he's a beast. I'll be back soon.